why do little children have to suffer and die? Isn't it cruel that they should be visited with such a horrible fate? When that suffering and death is at the purposeful hands or neglectful hands of evil individuals, then yes, it is absolutely cruel. Let's imagine for argument's sake that we have the omniscient mind of God, and we know that a record-breaking tsunami of gargantuan size is going to obliterate the entire coasts of Mozambique and Tanzania. Imagine we know that as a result of the tsunami that God can prevent, 250,000 people will die in the next 24 hours. We also know that 200,000 of those doomed people are children whom God will welcome with open arms into heaven at the very second they perish. Imagine that should God prevent the tsunami from happening, 25,000 of the 250,000 surviving people will go on to have relatively decent lives that lead to the births and subsequently decent lives of another 75,000 people. However, the other 225,000 surviving people will live out the rest of their lives in squalor, starvation, violence, disease, and in perpetual fear of hostile guerrilla armies. Imagine we know that if the tsunami is prevented, the bulk of those 225,000 people will suffer and die as a direct result of starvation, exposure to the elements, disease, and sexually transmitted disease. This will all take place as they continue to sire more children that will be born with disease into poverty. The children also won't be properly provided for or cared for. Imagine that we know that the remaining chunk of the 225,000 will either be raped, murdered, sold into sexual slavery, or forced into servitude within a guerrilla army, where they will then be forced to steal from, rape, torture, and murder others in a continuing vicious cycle that will result in the subsequent deaths and enslavement of another 400,000 people. The numbers in the scenario where the tsunami is prevented amount to the grand totals of 100,000 positively affected lives and 625,000 destroyed lives. Imagine we know all that, and the fact that God is now faced with the choice of either preventing the tsunami or allowing it to claim those original 250,000 lives. Armed with the knowledge of what stopping that tsunami means for the future, and knowing that the souls of 200,000 children will be granted immediate entrance into eternal paradise should it not be prevented, I then argue that not only is it not evil, cruel, or unjust for God to allow that tsunami to kill all those people, but it is in fact incredibly merciful. My God is not impotent. His ear is not deaf, and his arm is not short. He has to make decisions of this magnitude on a daily basis, and his decisions are not made on a whim. God says in Hebrews 13:5, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And at his own discretion, he gives and takes away. Job 1:21. In God's infinite wisdom, he weighs all the odds and makes his decisions accordingly, being that he is ever present for and experiences all 24 hours of every day for every person on earth. For the world's population at the time of this video release of 8.2 billion people, that's 196,800,000,000 hours that he lives through in a single day. That's 22,465,753.4 years worth of time observed by our Heavenly Father. Again, in a single day. And this is to say nothing of his time spent observing the sparrows and any other living creature under his all-seeing gaze. Matthew 10:26-33. This side of eternity, and with our limited mental capacity, we cannot hope to understand God and all that he does fully. As I've said already, there is a specific reason for everything God does. Proverbs 16:4 tells us that the Lord has made everything for its purpose, even the wicked for the day of trouble. He even makes those through whom his majesty and power may be shown. John 9:1-3. It reads as follows. As he, Jesus, passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "It was not that this man sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him.